You're listening to the Right Club podcast, where the focus is all about helping you grow your real estate investment portfolio and live the life you want to live. Come grow with us and join our community at therightclub.com. And now your hosts, Sarah Larbi and Alfonso Salemi.
And I mean, land development is something that I started dabbling into very recently. And if you don't mind me asking, why is that maybe the strategy that you're thinking of going and putting more of your time and effort into moving forward?
Well, for one, it's like one of the strategies that actually I took a liking to, for one. And then there's if you do your research properly and you buy the right property, there's so much more room to scale and to force appreciation by either tearing something down and building multiple units, or being able to rezone something to repurpose that property. And then also there's an aspect of it where it kind of taps into your creativity. So it's not just kind of like a bland buy and hold. It's just like you're actually like you using your imagination and trying to create something that other people can't see.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously maybe a little bit more of a complex strategy. And as you guys have gone through your journey, what gave you guys the confidence that you guys said have tried buy and holds and burrs and wholesales and done different things, but what along the way, gave you that confidence? And I don't know if we touched on it, but like how long has the journey been this far? And obviously getting the confidence to get into these bigger deals. Explain that to us a little bit.
Well, the journey itself, actually purposely investing into real estate only started last year, 2020. I did buy my first property in 2014. Leonard bought his first in 2009. Together we bought one in 2018, but not really, again, like thinking of what is cash flow, what is burring and all of that. So I would say that seriously investing in real estate, we've only doing that for 1 year. And I forget the second part of your questions. You did talk about go ahead.
Well, the confidence, how you guys have built that confidence in yourselves to make those decisions to move on to different strategies and now into the land development world.
Well, the confidence definitely came from surrounding yourselves with people who are doing exactly what we wanted to do. I think the first thing that we did right when we decided to really dive into real estate investing is to right away get a coach. And we were part of a group of people who were highly motivated and really wanted to achieve just lofty goals. And I think you're the product of the people that you surround yourself with, and just seeing them, go from 0 to 100 in just a few months gave us the confidence that we could do the same. And we just followed the path. And yes, you make mistakes, but we saw them more as learning opportunities. And I think when you think of what's the worst that could really happen, you're like, oh, not much. Maybe you lose a deal, or you make less money, or you make no money. But at the same time, those were worth the learning experiences. So that's really what gave us the confidence, just seeing that people around us were, doing so much more. Then we're like, hey, if we do the same things, then we won't fail.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, being able to leverage the mentoring and the coaching was very powerful. And then we're just naturally people that tend to take action too. So that also gave us the courage to tackle these new challenges. And also we learned very quickly that managing a duplex is almost the same thing as managing a 15-plex. Obviously, it's a slightly bigger scale, of course, but as far as the headaches, it's the same headaches. So might as well go a little bigger.
Absolutely. What do you think though was, because I mean, obviously there's always ups and downs in real estate investing, and it's amazing because mindset, I think, can push you further, and it can also limit you. And it sounds like you've got the mindset to keep going and taking action, which is amazing. But there's challenges, there's potential pitfalls along the way. There is, things that are not as awesome that you see on Instagram. What are some of the things that happened maybe in your journey? Because it's really only been, it's been a few years, but really ultimately a year, that you can share with the audience to say, this is real. There's some pros, there's some cons. Would you mind sharing something there?
Yeah, I think the two major things, and then I guess you could add on if Leonard can add on if he finds other things. definitely thinking that you'll be able to get a tenant out at a certain time and being able to rent it at a certain price and the time frame that'll take. You're like, okay, well, within 6 months, cash for keys, this and this and that. And then the tenant's like, no, I want to stay, right? And you're like, oh no, the property won't be assessed at what you want, and you won't be able to burn it out within 6 to 8 months, and then you're kind of stuck leaving your money in there longer than you want. So that's definitely a challenge that we faced. We've also faced tenants who don't pay, and then having to go through the LTV, and everybody knows that that was closed for a while. And so just knowing like, okay, how are you going to sustain the property in the meantime? And luckily we had buffered a certain amount of money for that, and we're just being able to maintain while that process is going on. So for us, one of the biggest mistakes was really like not necessarily knowing the time frame that it would take to really get your property to where you want it to be. Do you want to talk about maybe the rentals?
Oh yeah, the rentals. That's one thing.
It's always renos somewhere.
It's always rentals, and like one thing about like just to add on to this topic, if it wasn't for our mindset changing, and instead of seeing every little hiccup or every little stumble as like, oh my god, like why this, and like, oh no, something else. It's like now we have more of a kind of like a solution based type of mentality where it's like, okay, this is our problem. What is the solution, and how can we derive at this solution? Who can we contact within our network to help us find or resolve this issue? And then when it came to renovations, like a simple thing, for example, like where we didn't cover up the furnace when we did a full gut job in one of our units, and we all know how quickly dust can accumulate, goes into the furnace, and then a couple months later we need to buy a new furnace. So things like that, like going forward, we know that, like, especially if we know that we're going to be renovating a unit that has the furnace close by, to make sure to wrap it up and conceal it as much as you can, because you know that there's going to be a lot of dust that's going to accumulate in the property.
Yeah, so ultimately just knowing that your rentals typically cost more than you budget for, and just knowing like, okay, how much more do you need to budget for? If you think it's 80K, it's probably 100 or 110. And that's, I think that's the biggest lesson that we've learned in the rentals.
Yeah, and so you add like 10 to 20% of the cost, but also the time that it takes too, right? Because everything is just slower.
Yeah.
Finding trades could be slower as well. Permitting with the city could be slower as well, and so the timing plus the reno budget is never something that's like a perfect science. There's always going to be some movement in some direction, and it's usually not for the better.
Yeah, exactly it.
Yeah, and you guys are talking specifically about the renovations, right? And you plan for the best. That's what looks good on paper, you plan for the worst, you hope for the best, and then there's somewhere in between. And I'm quoting Miss Sarah Larby there on that one. But I think we could say about that, not just about the renovations, but I think about just investing in general, right? When you're looking at different strategies as things to come up, you mentioned tenants, probably investors as you start JVing and doing other things as well too. And you talked about the mindset and the mentors that you've worked with, and you said you have an action taker mindset. Was that always the case, or how did you guys get to that point where you got over that fact of, okay, now let's just call it, let's figure this out, versus just kind of like the woe is me? How do you guys continue to keep that mindset sharp, going through that and continuing to build that as the problems inevitably will continue to accumulate?
Well, there's two things for that. So Sarah already alluded to one of them. So just surrounding yourself with like-minded people. I know we're part of a mastermind, and we meet up every couple of weeks, a month, and just the energy from our leader, from the person that organized this mastermind, just at least for me, gives me enough drive for that week or for those couple of weeks to move forward. And then also something as simple as just reading, reading a couple of motivational or development books, whether it's personal development books and all that stuff. So just kind of stimulating the mind on a regular basis. stimulating the soul from meditating. I like to exercise, so stimulating the body as well. So just kind of like the whole holistic and wellness. I guess just trying to hit on all those aspects, like connecting, stimulating the body, stimulating the mind, and then stimulating the spirit.
Thanks for listening to the Right Club podcast and joining our community of real estate investors online at therightclub.com, where the focus is about helping you grow. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks from your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.